Hey, what's up, YouTube? Welcome, guys. Let's get this started. See if I can go live on Instagram this week. Nice, I'm on. Every now and then I get banned from going live on Instagram for whatever reason. Okay, how's everybody doing? Hope you guys are having a good week. I see some questions here on YouTube. You guys are awesome. So, first of all, happy equinox, everyone. Well, what was it? Yesterday was equinox, I believe, right? Um, as we are well, what I want to talk about today, and I think is relevant, is how, so I talk about sexual mastery, I talk about working with sexual energy, and we often think about that in relation to someone else, like our sexual relationships. Sex is something we think of experiencing with someone else, and often this other person becomes our sole focus. But really, sex is an extension of the relationship we have with ourselves. What we experience uh, in our sexual dynamics is often a extension of what we experience in our own personal relationship we have with ourselves, and that often tells us a lot about, we can learn a lot about ourselves and how we um, act sexually with partners, right? And that's why such a large part of sexual kung fu is doing this internal work. First of all, people want to go right to, like, okay, I want to have great sex, I want to instantly be able to last for hours in bed. But you have to ask yourself, if you're having these issues in the first place, if you're not having the sex you want to have, if you're not having the relationship with your sexual energy and orgasm that you want to have, then what are the foundations that are preventing this from happening, right? Often there's a blockage in your energy. There's some sort of dynamic that's out of balance within yourself. And you have some sort of blockage, some sort of resistance around experiencing a higher flow of sexual energy, higher experience of orgasm, higher experience of this. And so that's why this is such an in-depth, comprehensive system. It's actually about much more than just sex. It's about our belief systems, our ability to feel and connect with and channel energy, subtle life force, chi, prana, our ability to interface with our reality, with our minds, to manifest what we want, to manifest healing, to manifest abundance, to manifest flow, to manifest orgasm, whatever, right? And so, really, the basic operating system for this is learning to work with the energy in your body, learning to work with how your chi flows, and get to understand this, because everything is actually energy. We have this illusion that we have this physical body. They seem dense and fixed, but they're actually 99.9% empty space. um, and so it's this flow of energy within the subtle channels of the body, the meridians, the energetic matrix. When we learn to work with this, to feel this, to balance this, to clear blockages and resistance with this, um, it opens us up, right? The root cause of all disease, of all illness, all mental, emotional, physical, spiritual imbalance, is an improper circulation of energy through our body, of chi, of life force. And when this energy is flowing freely, we feel good, we feel happy, we feel balanced, and we're able to experience pleasure in a full body state. The problem is when our energy becomes constricted, it becomes restricted to certain areas of the body. It's not flowing enough over here. There's too much in this place. We get out of balance. This is a basic overview of Chinese medicine, basically, right? But also, this is really very relevant to working with our sexual energy, because if we have these underlying energetic blockages and we're trying to work with our sexual energy and move that around, we're not going to have very much success, because you've got a dam, keeping you from flowing this energy through your body. And so, um, that's why when you do this foundational work, opening up the energy channels of the body, releasing these constrictions you have, the tensions in your mind, the tensions in your body, the tensions in your energetic system, the blockages. When you've learned to feel this, and this is really a process of going deeper within yourself. For 90% of people or more on this planet, they're completely unaware of these inner worlds within the body. They're unaware of how their energy is flowing. All they're thinking is, oh, I'm hungry, I'm afraid, I'm anxious, I want to, you know, find something to do. So I need to watch a movie. I need to have sex with someone, right? This is where most people's focus is at. But when you learn to feel what's happening in your body and how it's affecting your mind, how it's affecting your emotions, how it's affecting your health, it becomes this really deep journey of understanding, um, really, how things are manifesting for you, how emotions are manifesting, how external situations are manifesting, how vitality or the lack of vitality is manifesting. It all comes down to how your energy is flowing in your body. And that's why I think this is the most relevant thing for everyone right now, is that when you learn to gain this connection with your internal world, to free up this flow of energy so that you can feel high 24/7. So you feel good, you feel balanced, you feel in the flow. Um, then that effortlessly sets the foundation for you to have a very successful sexual cultivation practice. Because once you it's like you learn the basic operating system of working with this energy, then you apply that to your sexual energy, and it's almost effortless, right? And what I see a lot of people teaching is that they go straight into trying to work with the aroused sexual energy, like going straight into trying to change your direct, sexual habits, which is very difficult because they're very stuck in place. If you're not doing all this foundational work to kind of, set a proper foundation for that sexual energy to work with the sexual energy, it's like building a house without a foundation. It's not very stable. So that's been personally my experience. The most effective way of working with this is having a solid foundation of energetic work, learning what is happening in your mind and your body, learning where you're holding tension, learning where your energy is blocked. And once you do that, once you learn to feel your chi, once you learn to move it, you learn some basic tools of managing, balancing your energetic system. Then you start working with your sexual energy directly, and it's very effective. It's a lot more effortless. It's a lot more fun. It's a lot more pleasurable. It's a lot more balanced, because if you have all these, we could say, unconscious programs happening, uh, negative programs, negative emotions, negative belief systems, and things like that. And then you start cultivating your sexual energy, you're kind of pouring gasoline on this fire, and you can strengthen some of these things. So that's why it's important to do this underlying work of addressing your shadows, addressing your blockages, addressing your fears, your limitations. And then you can start to work. You have a much harmonious space that you're starting with when working with sexual energy, and so that you can use the sexual energy to amplify this harmony and balance you've already cultivated, to amplify the joy and love that you're feeling, to amplify your balance. And so that is, kind of an overview of sexual kung fu and training in this. And that's, the system I trained in. So it was most effective for me, is having all these various tools, and that's what I present as well. So that's why I feel like sharing with you guys today. And having said that, this is a very important time to, again, be focused on this internal world. Whenever our focus is all out here, which for most people it is right now, then we get pulled out of our center. We get pulled out of our own root, right? And we get pulled into all these weird things, all these weird belief systems, all these weird fears. And then we become reliant on the external world. It's like, oh, this is happening out here. All my attention's on it. Well, now I need someone else to fix me. I need someone else to help me, right? And obviously we're all here to help each other, but when you don't have a tool that's coming from you, you don't have a direct connection uh, to the source, to the universal energy. When you don't have a direct path to basically fill yourself up, then you're always kind of dependent on these external things, and you don't have a very solid foundation to stand on. So this is all about us becoming our own masters, not relying on some external person, a guru, a priest, a politician, a doctor, to tell us what to do, but to learn to trust ourselves, to open ourselves up to this natural flow of energy that we all have. At least we all have the potential. A lot of us have just closed it off over the years. Reopening that connection and truly stepping into our power, and um, becoming a master of our own reality is what this is all about. It's becoming a Jedi training here. We're learning to train our minds, our bodies, to have a higher level of manifestation ability, a higher level of causality, and to be able to create what we truly want. And it all comes down to us first working on ourselves, reaching balance and harmony within ourselves, and then we're in a better place to help the world around us. Okay, guys. So, having said that, I'm going to get into some questions here. First of all, I want to announce a couple things. My 12-week course, Multi-Orgasmic Man, is going to be opening very soon in October. Probably, I'll be letting you guys know more, but about mid-October, Multi-Orgasmic Man is going to open. That is my 12-week course, comprehensive training in the sexual kung fu system. So everything I've been talking about, that's what I'm going to teach. That's what I teach in this course. You learn how to work with your energy, clear blockages, clear negative emotions, get centered, build your chi, build your energy, create open channels to circulate your energy, and then learn to work with your sexual energy to circulate through your body, have multiple non-ejaculatory orgasms, incredible states of sexual, experience, and last for hours in bed. Do this with a partner as well. So that's my course, Multi-Orgasmic Man. It's going to be opening very soon here in October. Second thing I want to announce, I've been talking about this free Qigong course I've been putting together. I'm just about ready to open it in the next couple days. So stay tuned. I will be sharing that with you guys. My new free Qigong course. Super stoked about that. All right, now I'm going to get into Q&A here. So feel free to send your questions, guys. Thanks for joining me as always. It's always good to see you guys. Good to share this information with you, answer your questions, and just hang out with you guys. Okay, rice a lot. on YouTube saying, I have a premature ejaculation problem, feeling very embarrassed by myself on these problems, expecting your guidance, walking with or touching my girlfriend's hand. Please suggest how I can get full control of my destructive arousal rate and premature ejaculation problem. So I'm not sure if I missed part of the message you sent, but um, premature ejaculation, again, this is something I talk about a lot. This is one of the primary focal points of sexual kung fu because this is a common issue for a lot of men. Um, and I've talked about this many, many times. I don't want to go, repeat things I've said, over and over. But basically, for premature ejaculation, it's often that you are stuck in a tension state. You're stuck in a state of tension. Uh, the ejaculation response is a function of your sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight response. So when you're constantly in that state, you have a lot of tension in your body, a lot of tension in your mind. Uh, you're going to be a loaded gun, so to speak. As soon as you go to have, sexual stimulation, you're going to ejaculate. So this is the main cause of premature ejaculation. So learning to unwind your body and mind, relax. So this is, stretching, yoga, getting a massage, doing breath work, meditation, qigong, all tools that I share in my course, in my training, and on my YouTube as well. These are all going to help you to release some of this tension from your body, especially tension patterns in the pelvic floor. A lot of men have this habit, I personally had this where they get in the habit of, for years, they're masturbating, looking at porn, and they squeeze the pelvic floor muscles as they're masturbating, as they're being sexually pleasured. They hold those pelvic floor muscles tight because it causes more sensitivity in the penis, but it makes you ejaculate quicker as well. So when you get stuck in that pattern where as soon as your penis is being stimulated, you involuntarily squeeze the pelvic floor muscles, that's one of the main causes of premature ejaculation. So look into this, take my free ejaculation control course, and any man can overcome this. It's just a matter of training. Lucius Lushinsky, hey, what's up, brother? Says, could you elaborate on what exactly alcohol and caffeine does what alcohol and caffeine do to our aura? I feel like I'm bleeding with energy after drinking alcohol, and caffeine instantly sends my sexual energy down, wanting release. Okay, good question. Caffeine and alcohol. Let's start with caffeine. Caffeine, it stimulates the adrenals, it stimulates the adrenaline, cortisol. So it causes this kind of yang, it puts you in a very yang state, right? So it releases, stimulates your endocrine system in some way. But for many people, this can be a negative thing. For me, I can't do much caffeine personally. What happens is you're releasing basically your energy reserves. You're tapping your kidney, adrenal energy, which is very much related to your overall energy levels and your sexual energy, especially. So when you rely on caffeine to run, you're pulling out. It's like spending from your your savings account, right? Without investing back in it. You're eventually going to run out of energy. And that's when people get into like chronic fatigue, or they're addicted to caffeine. They have to have a cup of coffee in the morning just to function. That is a sign that your adrenals are burned out, your kidney energy is low. So energetically, how it affects your aura. I mean, caffeine, it tends to cause this very rising of your energy. It tends to like this upward, right? It can be very ungrounding and excessively stimulating for some people. Now, if you're like a more of a kind of a slower water element, heavy set kind of person that tends to feel a bit lethargic, some caffeine can actually be beneficial for you. This is kind of the, idea of like herbalism, Chinese medicine, is that like no single thing is good for everyone, or no single thing is necessarily harmful for everyone as well, right? So caffeine tends to cause this like rising up of your energy. Um, so alcohol, however, in my opinion, alcohol is a very vile, toxic substance. And for me personally, I never want to touch alcohol again. It's nasty. Alcohol kind of creates these holes in your aura. It puts you in a low vibrational state. It's like you just, you don't care about what you say. You get in this uh, kind of numb state, and things just kind of come out of your mouth, and you have less inhibition, so you're in this kind of lower vibrational state. It also opens you up to external influences very, very easily. Why do they think they call alcohol spirits, right? Because in ancient times they understood that it made you very susceptible to external influence. You can call that, spirits, entities. You can call it thought forms, just information coming through the field. It makes you very, very susceptible to being programmed by external things. Alcohol is actually a major part of a control system, right? It's interesting, as like missionaries and things spread around the world, they would go to these indigenous peoples, and one of the things they would do is give them alcohol, and it would just wreak absolute havoc on it would make the people violent, crime would go up, all these things. Alcohol is always related with crime, depression, addiction. It's just, to me personally, there's nothing good about it. That's my opinion and experience. Sniper Fit AZ, what's up, brother? He says, when able to last with a partner longer and longer and circulating the energy, is there a lag where it might be too much energy at first? And then you find yourself able to contain greater and greater levels, I guess you're going to say. Yeah. So, yeah, as you're learning to your first, so this is the thing, right? Is like men, most of us as men, we've had this whole pattern in our life where sex was like kind of a short-lived thing. It's like, okay, we build up a little bit of arousal and it quick, usually very quickly reaches this critical point. We have to release it from our bodies. Uh, Instead of storing that arousal, storing that sexual charge, for men, the tendency is to just release it at the end of sex, which causes depletion, right? So in sexual kung fu, what we're doing is we're learning to hold that charge. We generate a tremendous charge of energy during sex. And at the end of sex, instead of releasing it, we store it in the body. We circulate it through the body, bring it into the different energy channels, bring it into the organs, the dantian, wherever, right? And so it's a completely different dynamic. So you're supercharged at the end of this. So in the beginning, yes, it can be just like a lot of energy to handle. Like you can find yourself just feeling super like wired, feel like you just took like some LSD or something. You're just like majorly expanded, having like altered states. It's very, very powerful. Like, when I first started having non-ejaculatory sex, I was blown away just how like energized I felt, how creative I felt. It was just like, I felt amazing after it, and I still do, of course. And so, yeah, in the beginning, there's a bit of an adjustment, period to handling a higher and higher level charge of energy. And it's just a matter of training, because really it's like you have to rewire your energy system, set proper infrastructure, we could say energetic infrastructure to handle this greater charge of energy. Um, and that's why there's so much, of this energetic work in sexual kung fu, qigong, meditation, breath work, working with the microcosmic orbit and other pathways, because we're creating an infrastructure to hold this higher charge of energy, building the dantian. So the more, and that's why it's important to keep with all these other practices, doing qigong, working with the dantian building, breath work, meditation, is it helps you to be constantly upgrading your energy system, we could say, to hold higher and higher levels of energy. And so over time, yes, you can hold more and more and more energy. Starseed Activator says, I love you, brother. I see you. I recognize from Palladian's past lives. I'm sending you love and blessings always. Thank you. Much love. Yeah, definitely have some strong Palladian connections. So, yes. Okay. Arrested Trim says, have you ever experienced telepathy? Um, yes, definitely, but not in the like formal sense of like having like a communication in my mind, well, like in words and things like that. I've experienced telepathy in various ways, like um, just suddenly having an image or something of a person, like an understanding of something that was happening to someone, and then it was happening. So for me, it's been a bit more abstract. It's almost like patterns, like whole information just gets like downloaded into me. It's like, oh, sometimes in regards to someone else, right? So I know it's kind of an abstract thing. It's hard to describe, but in some level, I've definitely experienced telepathy. I also had an experience where um, this was about, man, this was a long time ago. This was like 12 years ago. Me and my friends were on pretty high, kind of a heroic dose of psilocybin mushrooms. And I had this experience where uh, three of us were walking through a park, and it was like all of us, it was like I was in all of our minds at the same time. It was like I had become all three of us. And I forgot which one I was. It was a very, very strange experience. And I was like, I don't remember who I am. And it was like I had the choice, like whose body do I want to go back in and be that identity? And it was like, okay, I'm me, right? So that was it was a trippy experience. Brett McLean says, you were the best, bro. Thank you. Appreciate it, brother. He says, any thoughts on the inner smile? Yes, inner smile is a very, very powerful practice. I teach it in my course, Multi-Orgasmic Man. It's kind of a foundational Taoist practice. The inner smile is really activating the heart space, bringing acceptance to various patterns in your body, your mind, and the world around you. And the key word here is acceptance, right? It's not about trying to change things. We're always trying to change things. Like, I don't like this. I need to change it. What the inner smile is teaching you is basically to accept what is, not with judgment, understand that the universe is perfect the way it is and everything exists for a reason. And that when you're experiencing unpleasant things, it's often for, it's for a greater level of your growth and overall, sometimes disharmony is created so we can come back into harmony. So it just help the inner smile is basically this process of accepting what is, no judgment, no trying to change, no resistance, and just accepting what is fully, embracing the world with an open heart. Yes, it's a very powerful practice and something that's always deepening. Baith says, I know you recommend the He Shou Wu product from Dragon Herbs. What are your thoughts on their product, Microcosmic Orbit, said to help open up and clear the pathway? It's I actually haven't taken that one, but I've looked at it. I've looked at the herbs in there. I've taken all the herbs in there and other formulas, so it's solid overall. Um, I'm sure it helps, with overall chi flow and things like that. It's probably not going to do this quite the same, have the same effect as like actually doing microcosmic orbit meditation yourself, but it can definitely be supportive, as these herbs are. Drinking some Gynostema herbal tea. This is really amazing stuff. Gynostema, it's they call it the herb of immortality. I think they call it that. And it's also known as poor man's ginseng. It has a lot of similar adaptogenic effects as ginseng. It's really great. Highly recommend it. Also known as Jiao Gulan. Tanvir says, gained a few pounds, mate. Awesome. Good work, brother. Devin Mitchell says, long time no see. Hope all is excellent over there. Would you recommend a vasectomy to a guy who has no desire for kids? Um, Me personally, I would choose not to do surgical alterations to my body. That's my personal choice. But having said that, I have many, many men I know who've had vasectomy. Many men who are doing this work have had vasectomies and no major issues or anything. So if you really want to do it, go for it. But me personally, semen retention and a combination of semen retention and awareness of my partner's cycle has been very effective for birth control. But do what you feel is right for yourself. Krim Tully says, how many times a week did you practice solo tantra? By the way, I'm grateful for you introducing semen retention into my life. Thank you, Johnathan. Awesome. Glad to hear it. Wishing you the best, brother. You could say every single day I'm practicing solo tantra because, tantra is really just a path of energy cultivation. It's a yogic path. So every single day I've been doing it for, almost 10 years. But specifically the sexual practices, which are like one, section of tantra practice, in the beginning, I'm doing sexual practices pretty much every day, but in the beginning, as far as like solo cultivation, my first a little less than a year of doing these practices, I was single and I really wanted to learn this stuff. So I was practicing every day, working with my sexual energy, learning to move it through my body, or move the aroused sexual energy. So I was doing it every day for, a while. And since then, I've gone through periods where, if I'm like trying to practice a certain thing or something, where I'll do it a few times a week, whatever. But yeah, it's been my experience with that. Beach Music Blog says, can girls feel your sexual energy and therefore be more attracted to you? What do you think is causing sexual attraction? We're feeling each other's sexual energy. What is sexual energy? It's polarized energy. Uh, we are attracted because of polarity, because of magnetism. Opposite attracts opposite. And so, yes, and so the more sexual energy you have, the more you do this sexual kung fu work, the more you can build this powerful charge, the more attractive you are to your complementary opposite, right? So definitely. Yes, got the Eye of Horus, the mystery school. Okay, Chris Sparker says, what is better, Tantra or Taoist practice for semen retention or in general? Well, I personally prefer the Taoist practices overall. There's a lot of great stuff from Tantra, which I've incorporated in practice as well. But, personally, I like the Taoist methods more. They're a bit more body centric, less like transcendental, get out of this physical plane centric. Um, and just a little more practical and simple overall. And working with more than one directional flow of energy, we could say. Often the tantra, the focus is all on going straight up, bringing the energy straight up to the crown, trying to transcend the physical, which can be unsupportive of the physical body. So in Taoist practice, we bring the energy up, but we bring it back down. It's a two-way flow. And also all these other channels, the 8 extras, bring it through the arms and the legs, connect it to the earth, all kinds of things. So in general, I prefer the Taoist methods, and that's mostly what I teach. And the other question was, what any tantric books for men you advise to read? My go-to, is Taoist Secrets of Love: Cultivating Male Sexual Energy by Montauk Chia and Michael Wynn. There's a book that's more tantra oriented. I think it's called Jewel in the Lotus. I could be wrong, but that's a pretty good one as well. Sebastian B says, John, I've been practicing 20 minutes of Qigong daily since 2 weeks ago, and the difference is superb. My energy is high, my speech became fluid, and I'm emotionally balanced. Thanks for your advice. Awesome. Glad to hear it. Glad you're on the path of daily practice, because that's what changed my life more than anything, was having a daily practice, especially doing Qigong. Absolutely transformational for me. So glad to hear it. It'll just keep getting better and better. Okay, Stanley Dombrowski says, can we talk about your course? Is it live? Do we participate? Is it asynchronous on our own time? Thanks. Yeah, so Multi-Orgasmic Man, my 12-week course, which is launching in a few weeks, um, it is basically pre-recorded video modules. So you have lifetime access to, 12 weeks of there's a lot of material in the course, tons. There's a lifetime worth of material in the course to master. But yeah, so you can really go at your own rate through it. Some people will take much longer than 12 weeks, and that's totally fine. It's all at your own rate, and you'll have the rest of your life to review and go through it again and again. So that's the basis of the course. And there's also calls. I'm doing bi-weekly calls right now. So every other week you jump on a live call with me and ask questions, additional training, whatever. So that's how the course works, basically. Liar One says, I've done Zhuang every day for a year. Thanks to you. It's like a secret weapon. Do you ever use a timer, or do you just judge yourself? Awesome. Glad to hear. That's my number one practice is Zhuang. Absolutely life-changing. Also very intense system of energy cultivation. Um, I began doing that practice almost 8 years ago. I'm doing it every single day, and it's just absolutely phenomenal. But okay, as far as your question, do you use a timer or just judge it? Right now I use an interval timer, because my Zhuang practice, I do about 30 minutes. Actually, I do much more than that. I probably do 45 minutes to an hour of standing postures throughout the day, because I have different practice sessions. But in the morning, I do a 30-minute session of Zhuang, and I use an interval timer because I'm doing different postures. So I'll hold, like right now, I'm actually working with more like Yichuan postures, where you're doing certain energetic engagements. I'm doing a lot of like single leg postures, where one weight's on one leg, hold that for like 5 minutes, switch to the other leg, things like that. I'm doing Tai Chi postures, Xing Yi, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, I use an interval timer just to, um, so I know where I'm at with each posture. Arrested Shroom says, how many people sign up for your Multi-Orgasmic Man and Women course per registration? I'm curious to know how many people's lives are changing. Last rounds, usually somewhere between 100 and 125. So I've had about 1,000 people go through it overall. So it's awesome that people are uh, gravitating towards the work, doing the work, and there's only been amazing results from it. The people who stick with it and do it. Chris Chris Ampisa, sorry if I'm saying that right. Ampisa says, I like to visualize our chakras connected together by strands of all these colors. My Any other practical tips of keeping the energy between us two? So like, as far as sexual exchange, how to circulate the energy. I like to work with pathways of energy a lot. So you know so for me, it's not so much visualization, it's feeling awareness, tingjin, listening, feeling the energy with your intent and your awareness. So I like to guide the energy through, moving it through my energy channel, moving it through her body, creating like a figure eight looping. There's a lot of different, different practices, synchronizing your breath, eye gazing together. All these will help, keep your energy connected. There's tons of methods, and I teach a lot of partner methods in my course. Devin Mitchell, vasectomy. Okay, you asked it on Instagram too, so I covered that. Okay, someone's asking, can I repeat the name of the books? So the two books I was recommending were, the first one I recommend is Taoist Secrets of Love: Cultivating Male Sexual Energy by Montauk Chia and Michael Wynn. The second one was Jewel in the Lotus. I forget the name of the author of that, but that was more of a tantric book. Bobcat says, is retention and testicle breathing meditation enough to open up the microcosmic orbit? If not, what other practices should I incorporate to open up these energetic channels? I recommend first working with, well, I mean, the thing with the orbit is there's different levels of working with it. Basically, like simply moving your awareness through it, like you're doing an orgasmic breathing, testicle breathing, is enough to work with it. But there's different levels of it. Like if you really want a 100 volt, 1,000, 10,000 volt, really feeling energy moving through it, then you need to build your overall energy, and that involves working with the Dan Tien. So check out my Dan Tien breathing video if that's kind of the route you want to take. So, and this is kind of a process of years, actually, of really, really building the Dantian. So this is kind of the more long-term, serious cultivator, really building the Dantian, then having some serious juice to move through the orbit. But the other approach is to simply do the microcosmic orbit practice. I have several guided microcosmic orbit practices. I recommend working with those first, or at least, alongside the testicle breathing, so that you get a feel for the orbit overall, just your own energy. And then you start to add in sexual energy, and that will, further open the orbit, get you familiar with this as well. How many? Okay, someone said, how many hours of video content? I think they're asking in regards to the course. I believe it's around 15 hours or maybe more ish, more than 12 hours for sure. There's a lot of material in the course. I'm often adding more and more to it as well. This is my 12-week course, Multi-Orgasmic Man. So it's a ton of material. Scoob Scuba Boy 69 says, "Do you ever demonstrate your techniques?" Yes, I have many demonstrations. My YouTube channel is full of. I have entire playlists. I have a qigong playlist of practices, sexual kung fu exercises playlist. I have tons of techniques. So YouTube's the best place for like seeing my techniques. I also have my ejaculation control course. There's a link in my Instagram bio. There's a link in every one of my YouTube videos. So that's a direct training. And then there's my 12-week course, Multi-Orgasmic Man, which is like, way down the rabbit hole, all the practices to have the foundations of sexual kung fu training. Sacred Wild Man says, anything you can say about perineum tanning, pros, cons? I mean, tanning in general, getting full body sun is extremely important for our health, our emotional balance, and hormonal health. I've seen studies showing that the sunlight on the genitals increases testosterone levels in men by like 200%, and it's important for vitamin D production. Uh, And as far as like the perineum specifically, versus like the genitals, I'm not exactly sure personally. Like if it's more beneficial to tan the perineum, I've heard many things about this, but kind of my thing is like I want sun on every square inch of my body, and I try to get that as much as I can. I'm always specific, like when I'm looking for places to live, I'm like I need a place where I can privately get some full body sun, and I've been able to manifest that pretty well. Chris Parker says some practices say never ejaculate unless you want a child. Some say calculate health and age for ejaculation frequency. What is your take? In my experience and opinion, it's very unrealistic to say I'm never ever going to ejaculate except for the 3 times in my life where I want to make a child or whatever, right? It's very unrealistic because your body's very likely going to create an ejaculation anyway when you're asleep, nocturnal emission. Because the truth is that this sperm doesn't live forever. Eventually it dies, it degrades, and the body either urinates it out, ejaculates it out in a wet dream, or reabsorbs, the nutrients into the bloodstream. So the truth is that you're probably going to ejaculate at some point. And from my experience, having an occasional ejaculation can also actually be beneficial for keeping the endocrine system working, basically, right? I've experienced myself personally, and I've seen a lot, heard from a lot of men where they go super long term, long periods of retention, and the testosterone actually starts to lower, hormones start to lower, libido starts to lower because it's kind of a use it or lose it situation. So for me, sexual kung fu is this balance between obviously not ejaculating frequently, retaining the semen and for a period that benefits you, but not trying to go forever, right? So it's finding the sweet spot, which only you personally can find for yourself, and not being so rigid and obsessed about like I can never ever ejaculate. If I did, I'm a failure. I relapsed. It's kind of a self, you know, judgment, guilt ridden prison, right? So it's like basically learning what is balancing for you, finding this middle point between extremes. I'm all about avoiding extremes. Extremes of one thing often leads to extreme of the opposite, right? So yeah, listen to your body, do what you feel is right for yourself. Rendell Frank says, all right, here we go. What's up, brother? He says, what are your thoughts on the way forward for the world once we'll say the elite are taken down and this ridiculous thing that's been happening for a while is over? Um, I mean, first of all, that happening is going to be quite a, you know, anyways, once the shit show comes to an end, basically, right? Once the hundreds of or thousands of years of oppression, of dark force, manipulation, weird control matrix on the planet comes to an end, what's the way forward? Well, for a lot of people, it's going to be massively traumatic to understand that the what's actually been happening in the world, how manipulated things have been, the basic genocides and things that have been happening, and all this re- the secret technology that's been suppressed from us. We're still using 1800s fossil fuel technologies to run our cars are basically locomotives with rubber tires. It's ridiculous to think that technology hasn't advanced, that we still need fossil fuels, to the truth is that it's a money thing, right? It's a control system. Anyways, the way forward for the world, it's going to be massive therapy for a lot of people because their whole world's going to be wiped out. They're going to be very, very traumatized to understand the truth of what's been happening on the planet. Fortunately for me, I got, kind of initiated into things at a young age. And so now it's just like, oh, of course, this is all happening. We kind of saw it coming, right? But I think that holistic practices, things like qigong, meditation, yoga, sexual kung fu, energy work, is going to be the only thing that's really going to save people in the end from all this, the trauma, the weirdness. Yeah, it's going to be a lot, but I think we're all kind of, those of us who understand what's going on, those of us who kind of came here to be to hold our truth, to remember the ancient ways of harmony and wisdom, and to present our gifts to the world that we have, are going to be really helping people in this time. I think that's what is going to be a big thing here, is all finding how can we help people move forward, to move out of this weird dark control system and into kind of the golden age that is potentially ahead of us, right? Depending how things go. Basically, yeah, we'll see, right? Mirsha Castellan said, hello, John. I'm on fourth week of semen retention. I'm planning to go 1 year without release, working and improving my life mentally, physically, and spiritually. And I was thinking on doing a sperm analysis and then another one the next year to see any improvement. I would like to know your thoughts. Yeah, I mean, go for it. That's what you want to do. Go for it. It would be interesting to see an analysis. Of course, the sperm you have a year from now are going to be different than the ones you have now, right? But to see how that affects, if you actually do retention for a full year, to see how that affects your sperm quality and things like that, it would be interesting to see. Liar says, did you use the inner smile or some other technique to remain calm when you saw that your neighbors had taken so many peaches from the tree? So I had this situation, I think it was like a month ago. We have a peach tree in the front of, the front of my house, and I'm renting this place, renting this property, this house. And so the property manager texted me and was like, hey, we know that there's this peach tree. The neighbors usually pick some peaches. Is it okay if they have some? I'm like, of course. Like, I'm not going to eat all these peaches. I come home the next day. They literally took every single peach from the tree. There's not one left. I got like 5 peaches. I was a little bit pissed off. Obviously, they took all my peaches. So yeah, it was a good test for me. What did I do? Yeah, I did some inner smile, did some fusion of the 5 elements. Another great emotional kind of balancing thing. Stanley Dombrowski says, how does the high from goji berries differ from caffeine? Are they not draining? This is a good question. So basically building your energy with tonic herbs versus stimulating your system with caffeine and other stimulants, right? Major difference here. With caffeine, again, you're not actually gaining any energy from caffeine. You're taxing your adrenals. You're activating your adrenals to release more of their storage. We could say your stored energy, your jing. Uh, so again, it's like pulling in from your savings account to have more money to spend right now. If you keep spending that way, you're going to go broke pretty soon. This is what people are doing to themselves. They're exhausting themselves. They're over depleting their energy by ejaculating too much, taking caffeine, working too hard, etc. Right? So it appears that you have more energy, but you're actually just pulling your reserves. Now with tonic herbs, things that build your energy, adaptogens, goji berries, Chinese herbs, yin building formulas, things like that. This is different. You're not stimulating yourself. You're building your reserves. You're building your core energy. So when you eat goji berries, you don't usually feel like stimulated the way you do from a cup of coffee. You will feel more energized overall. So what you're doing with tonic herbs is you're putting more money in your bank account. You're reinvesting. And often it's, like most people, they first take like, goji berries, some tonic herbs, a Hisho Wu formula, and it's usually not like, oh, I feel completely better. Usually it takes days, it takes weeks, or some people it takes months to really feel a difference depending how depleted you are, right? So you're slowly rebuilding your system, building your core energy. Then you have more energy overall. So that's tonic herbs, holistically building your energy versus stimulating yourself with caffeine. That's the difference. Now, Rockin says, do you think the quarantine around Earth will be lifted within the next 10 years? I sure hope so, but there's definitely there's a lot of activity in the sky. If you get out of the city, go out to the country, look up in the skies, watch the skies, look at the freaking traffic, the definitely not jet fuel type technologies moving around the sky. It's very interesting. So someone's up there. Could be our own, governments, military, whatever, but something's up there. There's some interesting stuff happening in the sky. But yeah, I hope to, meet our interstellar brothers and sisters very soon. We'll see. Okay, Marcus Deschwan, Marcus Deschwani. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Sometimes when like all the words are together, it's hard to decipher the individual parts of the name. Marcus says, how has pelvic weightlifting benefited you, and where can I get the silk cloth and iron stick? So the genital weightlifting, right, which is the practice where you tie silk cloth around the genitals and you lift weights with your junk. For me personally, I've noticed significant boost to my sexual energy, my gene, my overall sexual potency, libido, sexual power. They say that this practice, genital weightlifting, makes a man invincible in the bedroom and on the battlefield. So it's definitely like a good longevity formula. And part of this practice is you hit your body with this, steel, really thick steel wires, this beater. It creates a vibration that hits your bones and helps open up the pores of your bones. You breathe the sexual energy into the bones, and it regenerates your bone marrow. Bone marrow is basically what's creating blood and hormones in your body. So this is a very powerful gene building practice. So that's been my experience with it. As far as where you get the materials for them, for an iron for the cloth, I actually have been using like a tie, like a neck tie. Just look up a silk tie, and that's actually good because it's nice and padded to wrap around your junk. And the stick, I actually made my beater myself, the iron steel beater, which took way too long. I don't recommend doing that unless you're really trying to save money. It was kind of silly of me to do at the time. So I got this like 12 gauge or something steel wire, cut it like 90 of them up, taped them together to make the beater. It took forever. You can just order these off. I think Montauk Chia's website sells actually all the equipment. His website's kind of difficult to navigate, but you should be able to find. Look up like Montauk Chia Qigong equipment on the website. Hopefully you'll find his genital weightlifting equipment. Michael says, hey, Michael, what's up, brother? He says, can you talk about how to rewire the tendency and desire to cross the point of no return in solo cultivation and when having sex with a woman? How do you tell yourself to back off? That's a great question. And that's something I definitely struggled with for a while because there's kind of this primal part of our nature that's intertwined with that, that point of no return. When we get closer, it's like we just want to let go and go over that edge. For me personally, I think it was a process of having enough non-ejaculatory sexual experiences to where I understood, like if it would feel, I know it would feel good for a little bit to go over this point, but afterwards I would feel, my energy's gone. I can't sustain the feeling I'm feeling now. So for me, it was this process of appreciating that peak of sexual arousal versus impulsively pursuing that ejaculatory release. And I know this can be a difficult thing. It's kind of like a lot of things. It's kind of like, if you were like, if you're taking cocaine or something, like, yeah, if I take cocaine, I want to feel really great right now, but I'm gonna feel like shit for the next couple of days. It's the same thing for me. It's like why I stopped drinking alcohol. It's like, okay, I feel a little silly for a little while, but I feel like horrible the next day. It's not worth it. Like, so I guess for me, it was just enough, you know, feeling high from doing qigong, feeling high from doing breath work, spending time in nature, finding this balance, um, and gravitating more towards feeling balance versus feeling intensity of things is very short lived and this really up down, thing with a lot of this stuff. So for me, something I would say also was helpful was just setting the intention before I go into, solo cultivation, sex with a partner. When I get close to the point of no return, I am not going to ejaculate. I am not going to go over the edge. So just kind of like really setting that strong intention. And then when it comes up, you're like, nope, I'm not doing this. So it really is just, building that willpower, building that discipline. And another thing, what I like to do is do, if I'm really like feeling that on the edge, like, oh, I'm really on the edge, could ejaculate, it would feel good, whatever, which isn't really an issue for me now. But what I would do is just do a power lock. I teach this in the course. I think I have a basic power lock here on YouTube, but you do the power lock, which is basically, a few intense breaths, a breath hold, bring the energy up to the dantian, various other centers as well. You pull all that sexual energy out, your arousal goes way down. So what I recommend to you is when you're at that point of like hovering on the edge, you want to go over the edge, stop, do the power lock until that energy is pulled out, and then see how you feel, right? Santi Rosasul says, after some time, you feel much more pleasure without ejaculation. It's training and sensibility of body. That's a very great point. That's another good point is that uh, it's like what I always think about is, yeah, the ejaculatory orgasm is very intense, but it's very, very short lived. It's so limited. And eventually it just stopped appealing to me because it's not that great. So you think about in the beginning, you're kind of stretching out that intensity over a much longer duration so that you experience overall much more pleasure, much more orgasm, much more heightened state, but it's over a longer period and you don't go over the edge. And so in the beginning, it feels a bit less intense, but you start to be accustomed to that and you start to build that state even to higher and higher levels as well. So it's just like, for me, non-ejaculatory sex overall is far superior to ejaculatory sex. And it's just a matter of training and, getting comfortable with that. It's really getting comfortable to hold this desire in your body. Okay. Slinny, I'm not sure sorry, Slin says, what are your views on testosterone replacement therapy? I feel like people ask this a lot. I know I answered this in the last one, but basically, I would be very, very hesitant to do this. For me, it would be like a very last resort because when you introduce artificial hormones in your body that the body didn't have to create, the body starts to say, oh, well, we just have this steady supply of hormones. We don't need to create them anymore. And so your body actually shuts down hormone production. You stop, you lose the ability to do it yourself. So now you become reliant on these external synthetic hormones, and there can be a lot of side effects to them. It can cause elevations in DHT levels, prostate issues, balding, all kinds of things. So for me, again, it would be a last result. You can always readjust your hormones with proper lifestyle adjustments, sexual kung fu practice, right? I know it's not the instant gratification. We all want the quick fix. So it just depends what your goals are overall. But for me personally, I like the more sustainable, holistic approach. We are all one says, should I open up and stretch my hips every day? Yeah, I definitely recommend it. I need to stretch my hips every day. I do a lot of standing practice, Tai Chi, Bagua, Xingyi, Qigong. So I spend a lot of time standing, and I need to stretch out a lot. So every morning I have like a 20-minute stretching, kind of warm up yoga practice, whatever. And I also do like 20 minutes of stretching in the evening as well. So yeah, hip. A lot of people, especially if you spend a lot of time sitting down, the hips really get tight. Things get congested there. It's bad for pelvic floor. So stretching really the whole body, but yeah, definitely opening up the hips and the sexual center is really important as well. Okay, Rendell Frank asks, would guys who went through your course when it was 6 weeks still have the same benefits that the guys would who are going through the 12-week course with more, which now has more content? Yeah, well, everyone who bought the course before, they got the upgrade to the 12-week course. So if you buy the course, when you get the course, you get all future upgrades as well. It's not like you have to rebuy the course, right? So like the first course I ever launched back in 2018 was, it was, about a year later, I completely re-recorded, remade the course. It was basically a brand new course, and I gave everyone who had bought it before then the new version, basically. So if you get the course, you will get every future upgrade to it, basically. So yeah, I just stretched it out because I feel like it's a lot of information. It's a lot of material. It's a lot of practices, and 12 weeks is just it allows more space for digestion, more space to integrate the practices. Alexander FX says, "Hi, how important is smile while practicing?" I'm not sure if you're talking about just like a physical smile or like the inner smile, but I would say, I mean, both are good. It's good to have that state of openness, that heart activation, that acceptance. You can use it during your practice, but also physically smiling. I notice like some of my practices, like when I'm really focusing, like my Tai Chi teacher's always like, "Relax your face, smile," because I'm doing Tai Chi and I'm super focused, like on the energy and like relaxing, sinking, sung, and I'm just like I have this really serious face, like okay, I need to relax my face and smile. So releasing facial tension is important as well. Okay, we are all one says, "Have you trained in person with Montauk Chia? I heard he has a school outside Chiang Mai, Thailand." I have not trained in person with Montauk Chia. Yeah, he's got his Tao Garden in Chiang Mai. Studied with many of his senior students. Studied with Michael Wynn. Studied with Lauren Johnson. Naz Rockin says, "Do the locations of your lucid dreams change depending on the geographic location you're in physically?" For me personally, it doesn't seem like where I'm at affects it too much. I often, when I mean, my dreams, I'm often at like familiar locations or sometimes random places. But when you're a lucid dream, when you develop skill to like change the dream to how you want it to, you can, like teleport anywhere basically, which is pretty cool. Sevenson says, "Hey John, can I email you on certain questions I have? Like if a question came into my mind, can I ask you something?" I can't guarantee them, and I get a lot of emails, and I actually have an assistant that helps me with a lot of email and messages stuff. So I do my best to answer what I can, but like I get so many, I'm just kind of overwhelmed with emails. I can't answer them all, unfortunately. That's kind of why I do this Q&A. Is this is the best place really to get in touch with me? And of course, I have, if you're in my course, you have kind of a priority there where we have groups. We have a Facebook group. We have a group inside the website to where you can ask questions and I answer them there. Black Bear says, "Can you talk about pheromones? I stopped wearing all artificial scents. I feel like some of those scents mess you up." Yeah, chemical scents are horrific. They're very, very toxic. A lot of them have lots of xenoestrogens, which mimic estrogen. So it's like you're getting all this extra estrogen in your body. They mess with your endocrine system. For me personally, when I walk into someone's house, they have one of those like it used to be really common, but like those scentsy type things where it's like the wax that heats up and it's like this chemical scent filling the house. If one of those is on, it just like gives me a headache immediately. I can't be in the room with those, chemical scents, air fresheners. People spray like body spray. Like I'll walk past them and just like I get this like headache. It's just like it's nasty, right? Once I stopped using these things, I became very sensitive to them. Unfortunately, right, this is kind of how things in our world is. It's like everything that can possibly be toxic is, it's an interesting thing to think about just in itself. But anyways, yes, I recommend not using artificial scents. um, and this will actually allow your natural pheromones to be expressed and people will actually be able to smell and the opposite sex will be able to feel more attracted to you. Derek Trevino says, "Sup, brother? Given that tension in the body blocks chi, would it be more beneficial to cut out heavy strength training and vigorous exercise and focus more on low to moderate forms of exercise instead when trying to build and keep your chi high and flowing better?" I mean, it depends. For me personally, I do both. I do internal practice. Uh, I keep myself loose, flowing, energetic. I'm doing Tai Chi, Qigong, everything. But I also do strength training. I lift weights. I go to the gym 3 times a week and lift heavy weights. And I do lots of stretching, lots of yoga. So it keeps me limber. So I like to do both personally. Of course, I study with some teachers who are like, you should never lift weights if you're doing Tai Chi. It will destroy your Chi body, blah, blah, which I don't know. You can make it work for sure. I've experienced this personally. So it's really just It's up to you. It's a personal choice. I do both, but if you want to focus more on the energetic thing, that can be great as well. MTL says we'll be shifting to an Earth with a reality where it matches our frequency. Yeah, well, I mean, it's we're constantly in this process of creating our reality. We're all master manifestors. The problem is that we've been programmed from a young age to focus on what we don't like, and we've been focusing on fears and things. That's what we tend to manifest over and over. And this it's just been a massive control system of distraction to distract us from the fact that we are master manifestors, I can't talk, manifestors, and whatever we focus on, we create. And that's why there's so much fear porn. That's why there's so much bullshit, is to distract us, to keep us from remembering this, so that we keep manifesting weird stuff in our life. So for sure, our what we focus on, what vibration we're in, our reality becomes that. We maybe even go into parallel realities and things like that. These this idea of timelines and kind of shifting into different paths based on where we are. Samir Bawaria says Kundalini awakening by big draw and cool draw. I'm not sure if that's a question, but for me, doing these things didn't necessarily cause a Kundalini awakening, but it can kind of strengthen that ability of, this upward rising energy, amplifying your consciousness, opening up the higher centers. For some people, it can cause spontaneous Kundalini awakening, but I had a Kundalini awakening when I was 19 years old. So, I forgot what I was going with that. But yeah, it's a lot of these practices, it's kind of like this subtle, the Taoist practices lead to this kind of subtle, gradual awakening of this high energy going up, opening up the higher centers, but also coming back down, grounding back into the physical. So it's a bit more of a balanced approach, in my opinion, versus just, blasting off. We are all one says, does it matter if you wear tight underpants versus loose? I do not recommend men to wear tight underpants or clothes in general, because it presses your testicles up against your body. The testicles hang low naturally for a reason. They need to stay cooler than the body. If your testicles get too hot, you will have bad sperm production, poor hormone production. So be aware of that. Personally, I don't wear underwear. I go commando. I like to let my boys hang loose. So that's what I recommend if you want to have, sexual health. Mike Van Brill says, what should be focused on in the basics of tantric sex? Breath and relaxation, and these two kind of connect. So getting out of like thoughts, getting out of your head and getting into your body, basically making sex a meditation, focusing on like what's happening in my body. Notice how you tend to like want to tense in response to pleasure, which actually limits the amount of pleasure you can feel. So learning to relax your body and breathe, the smooth, deep belly breathing, slow, deep breathing will help you to hold more pleasure, stay more parasympathetic, hold more of a sexual charge without getting overexcited. And you'll start to feel all kinds of things happening in your body. So I think that's a great starting point. Okay, I'm going to lose my Instagram feed in 2 minutes. I'll pull it back up. I'm limited to an hour on Instagram for some reason. Okay, Seven Sins asks, with the power breath, how many breaths do you have to do again before you hold your breath? It really doesn't matter, honestly. When you're kind of first learning it, it's more effective to do like some intense breaths, do like 9. I would say minimum of 9 intense breaths, then do it. But when you develop skill, you don't really need to do that. You can just hold your breath, or not even necessarily hold your breath, just use your mind to do it right. So it kind of becomes this process of becoming more and more subtle, more and more internal, where just your awareness is moving the energy. But in the beginning, that the breaths and everything does help. So you can do like 9 breaths, 18 breaths. You can do 36 if you want to really, really do a powerful one. Kizzy88 says, in what way does saving our chi energy affect athletics and building muscle? Where will you have more energy to put into what you're doing, right? If you're expending your energy all the time, your chi, but also your jing, right? Your kind of core vital energy. The more of that you have, the more recovery ability you have, the more endurance you have, the more kind of explosive strength you have, right? When you're depleted, you're not going to have much energy to put into athletics and building muscle and things like that, right? So definitely correlation there. Once I started practicing semen retention, sexual kung fu, I used to be really lazy in the past. Like I wasn't very active. I'd sit around, whatever. Once I started doing semen retention, sexual kung fu, was like I had to start moving my body. Like had all this energy. I started working out. Okay, Instagram, losing the feed. I'll pull it right back up. Give me a second, guys, on YouTube. I'm just going to share this on my Instagram. Okay. All right, here we go. Spree McGee says, how do you move your energy past your genitals? Just using your awareness, using breath, using intention. This is why training with the microcosmic orbit is very, very useful because you get a good feel for this pathway. You start to create this really comfortable pathway. And when you really get good at that, moving your sexual energy through it becomes quite effortless. I recommend practicing the testicle breathing. I have the guided practice on YouTube. Follow that and just, over time, it becomes more and more comfortable. We are all one, says John. You must be the best source of information on sexual energy cultivation who speaks English fluently. I'm glad you feel that way. Thanks for saying that. I'm just very passionate about this, and um, I do my research, I do my practice. More importantly, I would say, and I'm always just trying to learn more. Mirshi Castellan, drinking warm water affects sperm. Can I eat ginger every day? No, drinking warm water does not affect your sperm. It's different than having something hot against your testicles. Drinking warm water is actually great for your digestion. When you drink really, really cold water, the body has to use its own energy to heat it up, so it can affect your digestion negatively. Seven Sins says, if you were in the course, missed a payment, will you still have all the steps when you pay it again, or will it reset or something? Well, overall, I mean, obviously, if you sign up for the payment plan, you're agreeing that you're going to pay the full payment plan. If something comes up, you're like, I need 5 more days, whatever, I can always work with that, right? But if overall you just drop off the ball, then we might have to revoke your access. But if something comes up, you just let me know. Tuso says, bro, in 1 week, a hot girl is coming to my house and she is very naughty, and I have premature ejaculation. So how can I get a little bit of control of it in 9 days? From Brazil, please read that, man. Okay, you got a hot girl coming over. She's very naughty. You got premature ejaculation. What are you gonna do? That's a great setup. Take my ejaculation control course. Just practice keeping yourself relaxed, keeping your pelvic floor relaxed during sexual stimulation. I think another really important point here is that when you're functioning from the vibration of lust alone, ejaculation control can be more difficult because lust is a heavy energy. You said this, not a hot girl. It's all physical things. So I'm guessing this is kind of a lower level connection, right? No judgment here, but just being aware of that, right? This physical attraction alone, this lower energy center attraction, it causes this, it's kind of this downward flow of energy that it has, right? When there's no love in that, when there's no emotional connection, no higher connection, it's kind of like it's this pulling down energy. So inevitably, a very lust driven experience can be more difficult to control your ejaculation, right? Unless you really develop your skill. So, practice the techniques, but just be aware of that, right? If you can activate your heart, if you can feel love for this person, if you can feel a deep emotional connection with them, it creates this higher kind of alchemy of the sexual energy where it mixes with that energy of the heart, raises its vibration. So it wants to move upwards in your body. This heavy lust energy alone usually wants to go out of your body. So just be aware of that. Seven Sin says, with the transformational breath work, should you do 20 minutes of it to get the full effect of it, like the full body orgasm effect? I recommend doing it for 20 minutes of time, but you can start with shorter periods as well. Jungle Queen says, my boyfriend is so afraid of blue balls, he doesn't even want to try semen retention, but he gets down on himself for lasting 2 minutes in bed. He doesn't think it's possible. How long to prove himself wrong? Um, uh, Again, if this is something he wants to overcome, then he's got to be willing to do training. He's got to be willing to, do practices to, because any man can train in this, but it requires that training. It requires work, right? You can take my ejaculation control course and learn how to breathe during sex, or you can encourage him to relax and breathe during sex. Maybe go a bit slower for a little bit of time so he can kind of get control of his body and have him focus on his whole body, not just what's happening on his genitals. Relax his mind, relax his body. But he can do the sexual kung fu practices, and even if he doesn't want to do retention, he can still learn to have significantly better sex and learn to have full body states of orgasm. Rendell Frank says, do you naturally feel your sexual energy more awakened when outdoors than when you do your practice indoors? Well, as far as doing practice, I will say, well, just as far as like spending time in nature, I definitely feel more juicy, more vital, more sexual desire when I do spend a lot of time in nature. If I'm like, I've just noticed like when I'm in big cities, when I'm stuck, if I'm in like a hotel, an apartment in like a big city or something like that, it's like there's less of that sexual desire that sometimes, right? Unless I'm really keeping strong on my practices. So overall, yes, I get more juice being in nature, but doing my practice specifically. Um, there's not I don't notice a huge difference between being inside or outside other than like just like how you feel like if you were standing in a room for 10 minutes indoors versus standing in a room outside, it feels a bit better just being in that natural environment. But as far as like chi cultivation, I can get, a very close level indoors than I can outdoors. Russ DeSandre says, when you were first practicing the microcosmic orbit, what are some safety tips? So there's often this, I every now and then against people who are kind of afraid of the microcosmic aura because they heard it's going to like or injure them or kill them or blow them up or something. Um, this is, I mean, it's both a basic and an advanced practice. It can be both levels. The thing to understand is like the only way you can, this is my opinion, my experience. So disclaimer here, like I can't be responsible if you injure yourself with microcosmic orbit, but I will say that I don't think it's really possible to injure yourself, do any serious harm with the microcosmic orbit unless you've developed like a pretty massive amount of chi, a massive amount of yang chi built up the dantian, because after which you can only do from like years and years of doing dantian practice, right? So until you're on that level, you're probably not going to do any harm with the microcosmic orbit because you just don't have that huge of a chi supply running through it, right? Probably the worst thing you can do to yourself in the beginning doing the microcosmic orbit is get a headache because you're using too much force, too much focus. You're just like kind of tensely focusing on it. So just make sure your mind's relaxed. Don't focus too hard. Just have like a relaxed focus, relax your body, and you're going to be fine. I mean, the idea, someone's at Valdez asking, how can you injure yourself? I mean, I've only heard this theoretically, right? I've never experienced this. I don't know anyone else who's actually experienced this, but in theory, there's this idea of chi deviation where basically too much chi goes into the wrong part of the body, gets stuck, etc. Which again, usually is only going to happen if you have like a really, really, really powerful amount of chi. Because there's kind of been, I would say, kind of two traditional approaches to the microcosmic orbit. One has been to not teach the microcosmic orbit until like 5 to 10 years of or somewhere in there of underlying foundations, which is building the dantian. The more chi and jing you build in your dantian, the more powerful your energy becomes. I mean, you spent 5 to 10 years filling your dantian with yang qi. That's very, very powerful. That amount of energy can like cook your brain, fry a circuit in your body or something like that. But again, in the beginning, you're not there. You don't have that 100,000 volts of chi. You have 100 volts, right? So it's not going to. So the other approach has been, I was talking about those two approaches. The other approach is basically work with the microcosmic orbit from the beginning. And as you do build chi in your dantian, you're basically dispersing it through the orbit. So it's like you slowly build up a more and more powerful current versus like going full blast after 5, 10 years of filling your dantian with yang chi. So I know that might just be like abstract to some people, but it's been my understanding with it. Shaw says, what is the quickest way to boost your immune system or to build a stronger one? Stop reading the news. Stop paying attention to fear porn. Get out of fear. Fear has a very, very instantly negative effect on your immune system. Isn't that interesting, right? What's good for your immune system is sunlight on your skin, being out in nature, being in a natural environment, not being bombarded with EMF, weird electrical currents, things like that. Um, Sleep, getting your minerals, zinc especially. You can take colloidal silver. Colloidal silver is really, really great. I can't say certain words, I guess, but it's anti a lot of things, we'll say. Um, Oregano oil is great for your immune system, another anti lots of things. Vitamin D, vitamin C, release stress, healthy diet, healthy sleep, pure water, exercise. It's not that hard. Isn't it interesting how, a lot of these things are I don't know if I want to go on this thing, but basically if, okay, if this whole thing that's happening, we're going into it, right? If this whole thing was actually about health, the concern of people's health, then what would really be, required, well, I don't know if I want to say the M word, is exercising, getting sunlight in the skin, not being stuck inside all day, which is terrible for your immune system, not being in fear, which is terrible for your immune system, exercise, nutrition, mineral supplementation. That is what would be, kind of pushed on people if health was actually a concern in this whole thing. That's all I'm going to say. This was my Tumblr. Says, curious how or where do you get your water? Right now, I have a Kangen machine set up. So I have a 3-step filtration system, like a charcoal filter, uh, all 3-stage filter that removes everything from the city supply of water. So it removes the fluoride, the chlorine, all the nasty neurotoxins. And then it goes through the Kangen ionizer. So it's a water ionizer, restructures the water. You don't need this fancy of a setup. I got this set up as a kind of a trade for a friend for doing a retreat. I don't know if I would really spend $4,000 on a water system, even though it can be worth it to have really good water, right? The best thing I would recommend is spring water fresh from nature's number one, but also like something that removes everything and then restructures it. That's important, right? Distillation and I believe reverse osmosis removes all the things from your water. But it's important to understand that even though the particles have been removed from your water, the structure of that information is still held in the water. Water it's a liquid crystal. It holds information, it holds memory, right? And so you want to restructure your water if you're doing, if it's had weird stuff in it before. And it's really simple to do. The easiest way to restructure your water is this. When water is flowing through rivers, through creeks, it's spiraling, it's moving, it's water, waterfalls, it's spiraling. This creates this momentum, it structures the energy into this spiral. Shaking your water bottle creates that movement. When water becomes stagnant, it's not so good, right? So structuring the water by moving it, shaking it, you can also send intention into it. What's it? Emoto guy, I forget his first name. He had all these, I'm sure everyone's heard about this, but how he sent specific intentions into water and it changed the actual crystalline structure of the water. So you can hold your water to your heart, send it love, send it compassion, respect, kindness, whatever. Send positivity into your water and you'll restructure it. We Are All One says, do you use antiperspirant at all then? What should I do to prevent smelling at work? You can use an deodorant. I do not recommend deodorant that has aluminum in it. Get something that's all natural. Putting aluminum on your body is a terrible idea. Causes all kinds of issues, but yeah, get a all natural deodorant if you choose to use it, and that will help you. Shah says, are there any Qigong practices for varicocele? I'm not sure if that's how you say it. I don't know this specifically. Sorry, I'm not a specialist in this type of issue. I've heard that some people have used certain types of treatments for this involving DMSO, dimethyl, I forget what it's called, which is a derivative of like pine trees, I believe. So look up DMSO and the varicocele and just see what you find. Don't take my advice as qualified medical advice. Mirsha says, do you know if kefir is good for sperm? I mean, not necessarily like directly, like you drink kefir and it makes your sperm, but there's a lot of evidence suggesting probiotics are beneficial for our digestive system, right? Balancing out your gut bacteria so you can digest foods properly. Better digestion equals better assimilation of nutrients. More nutrients into your body equals better sperm production. So overall, you could say yes, it is good for your sperm. SH says, hi, since on semen retention, I feel like I don't care about girls. I was kind of a player, but I only focus on my goals. Am I sane or am I losing my desire for women? No homo, lol. Is that healthy? Uh, so this is fairly normal, I would say. What happens is you've spent maybe a good part of your life chasing after women, chasing out the opposite sex because you feel like you need this thing. Uh, and now, because you've been programmed to like constantly send your energy outwards, and now that you're rebuilding your energy, rebuilding your sexual energy, holding inside your body, becoming focused on yourself, you're no longer focused on just chasing sex and things like that. So you're actually, gravitating towards a higher pursuit in your life, we could say. So it's kind of this transmutation or redirection of your sexual energy, right? So yes. Talbot says, does artificial pheromones attract? Do artificial pheromones affect attraction? I don't know specifically. I haven't tested this myself. Again, I'm not into artificial anything. You don't need them. You can create your own pheromones by practicing retention, boost your pheromone levels. Eating celery also does, and working out, exercising. And don't use like heavy scented things. Like don't use chemical soaps and things like that. Sarah Nicole says, hey, do you suggest any practice for lack of desire? So this can be related to hormone levels, maybe kind of low hormone levels, reducing stress, exercising, getting your body moving, getting out in nature, getting sunlight on your body is really important. Vitamin D, um, minerals. Our soils of our planet are becoming very deficient in minerals. So supplementing with minerals, high quality, like colloidal minerals. TJ Clark has some really great colloidal mineral products, which are important for hormone production. For women, breast massage can help stimulate hormones, stimulate hormones in the body. Eating healthy foods, look up like tonic herbs and things for hormones and things like that. What is it? Tong Quai for women is really great for hormone production as well. So hopefully that's helpful. Cesar Hernandez says, how can you treat low testosterone? So, yeah, we were talking about women's improving hormones, and for men, basically the same. Reduce stress. This is the number one toll on people's vitality and hormone levels is stress and like fear, being in anxiety, negative emotions, and lack of sleep. So reducing stress, number one, getting quality sleep. For testosterone, get sunlight on your body if you can. That'd be another one of my top. If you can't, take vitamin D. Get a good vitamin D3 supplement. Boron, boron, magnesium, selenium, and zinc are the four most important minerals for hormone production. Boron you can get from borax, which is it's marketed as a detergent, but it's actually just it has boron in it. It's a natural mineral. So I sprinkle a little bit of that in water every day and take that. Um, Brazil nuts have all the selenium you need. Cold water exposure, keep your testicles cold. Work out your leg workouts. Heavy squats are really, really good for testosterone improvement. Take tribulus, tomcat, genital weightlifting, testicle massage is really important as well. Check out my video. I did a recent video. It's like 5 ways to boost semen sperm production. And the things I share there will help you boost your testosterone as well. And also like, just get away. If you live in the city, get out of the city. Rent a cabin or go camping for a few days or a week, and you'll be surprised at like how much it helps reset your system. Just getting out of the stress, the constant bombardment of being in a city, electromagnetic waves from weird devices and things like that. There's a lot working against our vitality. Shilajit, yeah, Shilajit's great as well. Uh, um, where's that at here? Okay, guys, I'm gonna just answer a few more questions. SH says, do you think massive martial art training plus semen retention plus confidence affirmation can raise my Jing energy? I want to be very masculine. Any advice to boost my Jing magnetic power? So, exercise in moderation, yes, will help you boost your Jing. Be careful with martial arts stuff. Some people really overdo it. They're overexerting themselves. They're getting injured and things. That will not be good for your Jing. That will spend your Jing, right? Too much exercise. So, exercising properly so that you're not overtaxing your body. But as far as Jing supplementation, really goes in with boosting hormones, which is more rest, more quiet, stillness time. Doing qigong exercises to build the kidneys. You want to build your kidneys for hormones and for Jing as well. Look up gene boosting herbs, look up gene building foods. Yeah. Derek Trevino says, how exactly do you know if you've had a Kundalini awakening? Well, if you're in a, uh, if you feel like you're on a psychedelic trip, um, you're seeing things, you're hearing things, you have just like all of a sudden massive different perception of reality. You feel like you're floating out of your body. I mean, it's difficult to say, maybe different for everyone, but overall. Peter Caldwell says, can yin and yang be exchanged through kissing? Yes, definitely. Kissing is an exchange. It's you don't have to have physical contact to exchange yin and yang with someone, right? But it can be amplified by that physical contact. Whale Denny says, can you put intention in your sexual energy, whether it be as sacrifice for God or to increase magnetism? Yeah, I mean, you can totally program your sexual energy. Everyone's sexual energy is programmed, right? We just aren't aware of it. We've been programming our energy to go out to fantasy, to go into porn videos and things like this. But first step is building it back up in your body, and then you're working with it, circulate through your body, and then consciously kind of go into a meditation practice to program, like, what do I want to put this energy into? Manifest that. MTL says, do exactly the opposite of what we've been told by society. Exactly. I'm not sure if this was in regards to like hormone balance, things like that, but yeah, we live in an excess yang society where it's always go, 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 do, do, do. You have to impress everyone, drink 3 cups of coffee every day. Don't, sleep 5 hours a night. We live in a burnout society. Rendell Frank says, sometimes the energy flows smoothly during testicle breathings, other times not so much. Is it because of some kind of blockage or the technique not being done properly? Your every day things will vary. It's not like, with practice, with eternal arts, with self mastery development, it's a spiral. It's not a linear path. It's not like every day like your practice be like, oh, better, 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 better. It's a spiral. It's like you go up, you kind of go down, you go up, you go down. It's overall you're going up, right? But yes, some days will be better than others. It's just how it is. Don't worry about it. Captain Commando says, when you release, is there a cool down time you should wait to do cultivating practices, be it mental or body metaphysical? Also, your favorite practice for willpower. For me personally, after a release ejaculation, I could start practicing immediately. But back in the day when I was really depleted, when I was like still rebuilding my energy from years of ejaculation, there was usually like 24 to 48 hours where sexual energy practices weren't very efficient. But the good thing to do is like building exercises, like working with the Dantian, do some Jian Zhuang, pulling earth energy from the earth into your sexual center, into your kidneys, things like that. So you can definitely do practices right away, right, to rebuild your energy. And then you're asking the favorite practices I have for willpower. What I've found most effective for willpower, okay, I'd say number one is ice baths, cold water exposure. Like I have a deep freezer. I fill it with water, basically ice water. There'd be ice chunks floating in. I go in there. I'm never really like, I mean, it's always like, okay, I have to prep myself for it, right? It's uncomfortable. It's the opposite of doing something instant gratification. When you're doing ice baths, it's like, it's very uncomfortable. There's no air around it, right? You get better and better and better at it, but like, it's an uncomfortable thing. So like doing that for me has built tremendous willpower because like, well, this is uncomfortable, but it's good for me. I'm going to do this. And then I get in and like, whatever, feel the cold, feel the discomfort and just like release into that, right? I would say also Jian Zhuang has been a great practice for me for developing willpower because Jian Zhuang is a standing meditation practice. You hold these postures. And when you first start doing this, it's very difficult, to stand in this position for 10 minutes. It gets uncomfortable. And your body wants to stop. Your mind wants you to stop, right? But you say, no, I'm going to hold this posture, relax my mind, and go deeper and deeper into it. So for me, I feel like that developed tremendous willpower. Also, semen retention develops a lot of willpower because you're going against your kind of ingrained nature of constantly ejaculating, which, for me, it was anyway. Okay, guys, I'm gonna answer just a couple more questions. I gotta jump off here. I'm just gonna. Okay, do I wear sunscreen? Peter asks. No, I do not wear sunscreen. Okay, the last time I wore sunscreen was when I was in Florida earlier this year because there was it was winter where I was coming from. I hadn't really had much sun for a couple months. Went to Florida where there was some intense UV, right? I was in Key West, Florida, and I got super burned. Like my first day, I tanned for way longer than I should have. I was out laying in the sun. I got super burned and to the point where it was like painful to be out in the sun. So I found some the most natural mineral sunscreen I could find from Whole Foods and use that. But that was a kind of an exception. Normally, I haven't really been using sunscreen for like 10 years because most of it has really nasty stuff in it that, blocks, builds up your lymph nodes and things like that. So for me, I acclimate to myself to the sun. So when I'm coming into the warm season, I'll spend, not like a ridiculous amount of time in the sun so that my body starts to develop a tan. That's what a tan is. It's a natural sunscreen. So I slowly build a tan and then I'm good for the summer to spend as much time as I want in the sun. So yeah. Whale Denny says, Jonathan, how can I give energy as a sacrifice for God? Should I take it to crown or heart? And what's the difference? I'm not exactly sure what you mean by like sacrificing your energy. Are you gonna like, I don't know. But I don't know. It's whatever you want to do with it. It's like we often think of our God, creator, source, whatever, as being like up here somewhere, but it's everywhere, right? It's within us. It's everywhere. And I don't know. It's like why do you need to sacrifice something? I don't know. It's your own unique practice. It's fine. Just do what feels intuitive, you know, and do it with love. Okay, Starlish says, I don't feel the microcosmic orbit despite being able to have multi-orgasms. Should I do more lower Dantian work? Yes, do more Dantian work. The more you build in your Dantian. For me, it took like almost 2 years, probably about a year of really focusing on Dantian work, really building some chi there to start like really feeling an electrical current in the microcosmic orbit, which doesn't mean that there's nothing flowing there. It's just not quite the extent of power flowing through there to where it starts to become very tangible, right? Okay, guys, thanks for joining. I'm going to jump off. Wishing you guys the best. And I'll be back same time next week. Qigong, new free Qigong course dropped in the next couple of days. So watch out for that. And take care, guys. I will see you next week.